It's happening, Patriots. After nearly a decade of lies, cover-ups, and political theater, the truth has detonated right in the heart of Washington, D.C. Tulsi Gabbard, yes, the former Democrat darling turned whistleblower, has just dropped the files that the deep state swore would never see the light of day. And those files? Well, they lead straight to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and James Comey. Now, guys, this is not a rumor. This isn't speculation. This is the indictment of the century. The Department of Justice under President Donald J. Trump's administration has officially confirmed multiple sealed indictments tied to the Crossfire hurricane conspiracy. Now, for the first time, the names at the top aren't some low-level scapegoats. They're the architects. Obama authorized it, Hillary financed it, and James Comey executed it. So tonight, the walls are finally closing in. What Tulsi Gabbard just exposed isn't just some political corruption, it's treason. It's proof that the 2016 Russia collusion narrative wasn't just some fake news. It was a weapon. It was built and aimed at the American people. So buckle up, guys, because over the next couple of minutes, I want to show you, I'm going to walk you through how this particular operation was born, like how they came up with it, how they covered it up, and how it all came crashing down under Trump's second term Justice Department. Now, this is the moment that they feared. This is accountability day here in America. Hit the like button, subscribe. Okay, Washington is frozen today, okay? The Department of Justice has just confirmed what insiders have whispered for weeks. Multiple sealed indictments connected to the 2016 Crossfire hurricane operation, they're now active. And the names that are attached here, well, they're not some junior staffers or some obscure aides of people, whose names you've never heard of. No, they're the titans who once ruled the intelligence world. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and James Comey. Now, inside the Beltway, shockwaves are already rippling through every power corridor. Tulsi Gabbard, now Director of National Intelligence, didn't just hint at it. She went on record. She publicly corroborated the DOJ findings in a live briefing this morning. Her statement triggered instant panic among the political elite. Now, this isn't just another headline, guys. This is the moment of reckoning. This is the moment when years of sealed files, classified memos, and whispered rumors burst in the open. Every major network is now scrambling to trying to rewrite the narrative that they spent years trying to defend. The same pundits who mocked deep state conspiracies, they're now asking, how much did Barack Obama know? And when did he authorize it? That's where everything begins, guys, with the quiet operation that started it all. So when President Donald J. Trump returned back to the White House in January 2025, one of the first executive actions was ordering a full review of every counterintelligence file that is connected to the Obama era. What investigators uncovered could shake the foundations of the entire intelligence community. Documents showed a coordinated effort not to protect America, but to weaponize the FBI and CIA against a political opponent. That opponent we now know to be Trump himself. So at the very center of the scheme was then FBI Director James Comey, aided by Deputy Andrew McCabe. They signed off on FISA applications using information that they already knew was unverified. Internal memos revealed the so-called Russia investigation. It wasn't a legal probe. It was a preemptive strike to delegitimize Trump before he ever took office. Analysts within the new Justice Department describe it very bluntly: a coup attempt disguised as counterintelligence. And now, years later, the evidence trail has come full circle. Comey's own approvals, his digital signatures, his communications, all preserved, all admissible. The deep state's firewall has finally cracked. Now, when Medicare coverage fails, it's not just you who pays. It's your family, it's the kids, it's your grandkids, often ending up having to cover the gap. Now, Medicare premiums are set to rise next year, folks, and many Medicare Advantage plans are disappearing altogether. Now, for seniors who are watching this, I already know what you're dealing with. Nonstop robocalls, texts, junk email about Medicare during annual enrollment. Guys, this is why I partner with Chapter. They're the only advisors who review every plan nationwide, and they recommend what actually fits your needs. Now, on average, they've saved seniors $1,100 a year. They make sure that your Medicare plan works so that your family doesn't carry the burden. Now, one of our viewers, she said, calling Chapter lifted a huge weight off my family. So let me ask you, do you want to pass the burden on to your family, or do you want to join the thousands who have already started protecting their families? Now, most people are already dialing that phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org. That phone number again is 909-563-8279. Now, just follow the money. You guys have all heard the phrase, right? Follow the money. That's where every trail begins and ends. And in this case, the money leads straight to Hillary Rodham Clinton. The newly unsealed filings confirm what independent journalists and whistleblowers have said for years. Hillary's campaign, through the law firm Perkins Coie, secretly funded Fusion GPS to manufacture the infamous Steele dossier. Now, that dossier wasn't intelligence. It was political fiction, a product designed to look official so that the FBI could use it to obtain surveillance warrants on Trump campaign officials. Now, according to prosecutors, the dossier's false claims were used in at least 4 separate FISA applications, each one knowingly built on fabricated data. The DOJ indictment names 2 former campaign accountants who testified under oath that Hillary's team disguised payments as legal services in order to hide the political motive. That is felony level deceit, guys. Now, here's where the tension really kind of picks up, okay? The same false dossier that Hillary's campaign bankrolled was fed directly to James Comey's FBI, giving them the excuse that they needed in order to launch Crossfire Hurricane. In short, the campaign funded the lie, the FBI executed it, and the media sold it. The web is completely unraveling at this point, and it leads to one man at the top. And I think we all know who that is. Drop that name down below if you know who we're talking about. Now, Tulsi Gabbard's leaked memo changed everything. It revealed that in December 2016, just weeks before President Trump's first inauguration, President Barack Obama personally authorized what is now known as the expanded assessment order. Now, I'm not talking about some assessment from your HOA. This particular order we're talking about right now, the expanded assessment order, now verified by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, directly contradicted months of intelligence reports stating Russia posed no active influence threat on the election. So why issue it, right? Because it gave cover to continued surveillance and planted the seed for the Russia collusion narrative that followed Trump into office. So Tulsi Gabbard's memo quotes Obama's handwritten note: ensure ongoing assessments continues post-transition. That is the smoking gun, guys. The memo turned what was once a political rumor into a documented act of authorization. This is the pivot point where ordinary intelligence gathering morphed into a political weapon. And this is why the DOJ's treason-related charge centers on this very order. Obama's approval wasn't procedural. It was clearly personal. It transformed a partisan narrative into a full-scale federal investigation. And now that decision is the foundation of the indictment that bears his name. Now, for years, James Comey played the role of the untouchable bureaucrat, the calm, self-righteous face of the FBI. But tonight, that image has collapsed. In fact, the unsealed count in the indictment lists him by name, charging him with abuse of authority, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to defraud the United States of America. Now, sources confirm that several of Comey's former allies inside the Bureau, including 2 senior field agents, turned state's evidence after investigators presented them with internal emails proving Comey knew the Steele dossier was false from day one. Now, those emails, dated October 2016, they clearly show Comey privately calling the dossier junk, even as he used it to justify surveillance and the media leaks. So just imagine the silence in his Virginia home when news broke that the grand jury had officially named him in the case. Neighbors reported unmarked vehicles outside of his residence all morning. Very clear sign that federal agents were preparing paperwork. The man who boasted he stood above politics has now become the face of political weaponization. The irony? Well, the very institutions that he used to destroy others are the same ones that are dismantling him. And then, of course, came the explosion. Tulsi Gabbard's proof drop. The moment that she stepped behind the podium as Director of National Intelligence, the entire DC press corps knew something historic was coming, but no one expected this. She announced that a cross-agency task force had confirmed intentional deception at the highest levels of government during the 2016 election cycle. Her tone was calm, almost surgical, as she laid out evidence that was linking Obama-era officials to deliberate falsification of intelligence reports. Tulsi Gabbard displayed the declassification portions of 3 memos, one from the CIA, one from the FBI, and one that's bearing Obama's handwritten approval. Now, together they form the connective tissue of what she called a treasonous conspiracy against the constitutional transfer of power. Now, this is the same Tulsi Gabbard once praised by Democrats as the future of their party. Now she's the whistleblower dismantling its foundation. Once their ally, now their accuser. The transformation alone sent tremors through Washington, but it's what she said next that truly broke the internet. In fact, the people have a right to know what was done in their name and against their vote. The battle has moved far from the DC swamp straight into the sunshine. So Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed that the grand jury convened in Fort Pierce, Florida. It's now officially hearing testimony on the Crossfire hurricane indictments. The choice of venue wasn't random. It was strategic. By holding proceedings in Florida, prosecutors ensured independence from the entrenched Washington establishment. No insider jurors, no swamp protection, just everyday Americans sitting in judgment over the most powerful names in modern politics. Now, Pam Bondi explained that statutes involving conspiracy, wire fraud, and obstruction, they allow flexibility in venue. This means crimes that crossed state lines, financial transfers, digital communications, surveillance authorizations can legally be tied outside the DC circuit. The jury reportedly includes veterans, small business owners, and even one retired police chief. Ordinary people staring down extraordinary corruption. This is where it gets real. The DOJ isn't just investigating anymore. They're prosecuting. And the people delivering that justice, they're not political insiders. They are patriots. Drop a patriot down below, guys. Now, inside those sealed courtrooms, America's elites are finally answering to the very citizens that they tried to silence. Now, if you really want to see panic in real time, look no further than the legacy media. Within minutes of the indictments being confirmed, CNN, MSNBC, and of course the Washington Post all went into full defense mode. First, ignoring the filings and then scrambling to try and discredit Tulsi Gabbard herself. Anchors who once praised her military service, they're now calling her unhinged and compromised. Isn't that funny, right? Editors are running these op-eds claiming that the DOJ is politically motivated, even as the documents prove otherwise. But here's the real twist. Independent media isn't playing along. Citizens, journalists, me, alternate networks, and social platforms, they're all amplifying the leaked proportions of the filings faster than the corporate press can try and bury them. Screenshots of Barack Obama's handwritten notes are trending worldwide. The establishment's silence has become the story. Their refusal to confront the evidence only deepens the public outrage. Online forums are calling it Watergate times 10. And in a poetic twist, the same media outlets that once demanded transparency from Trump are now begging for secrecy. The walls that they built to try and protect the narrative, they're collapsing, and they're collapsing live in front of millions of Americans. And then, just as Washington reached peak chaos, President Donald J. Trump stepped before the cameras in the East Room, and the room fell silent. What he said next wasn't a victory lap. This was a declaration of principle. No one, he said, and I mean no one, is above the law. Not presidents, not politicians, not the press. His voice carried the calm confidence of a man who waited years for this moment. He emphasized that justice under his administration would proceed without vengeance, only truth. He confirmed that the DOJ and Director Tulsi Gabbard had full authority to continue unimpeded, adding that America must restore faith in its institutions by cleaning out corruption at every level. Even President Trump's critics could not deny the power of that message. The same media that once labeled him authoritarian now found themselves broadcasting a speech about accountability and constitutional order. And as the press shouted over one another trying to twist his words, Trump just simply smiled and he said, "This is what equal justice looks like." Now that quote trended for 48 hours straight because it wasn't rhetoric. It was reality. And within hours of Trump's statement, Capitol Hill was in full chaos. Congressional leaders held emergency closed-door meetings as staffers leaked fragments of the indictment across social media. Members of both parties were scrambling to contain fallout, not just political, but personal. Outside, thousands gathered in front of DOJ headquarters and the Capitol steps. Some held flags, others held signs reading "Justice at last" and "No more two-tiered system." Across conservative circles, there was vindication, the sense that years of deception were finally starting to unravel. But the other half of the nation was in complete disbelief. In fact, liberal commentators called it political persecution. Protests flared in major cities overnight. America was split again. One side was celebrating accountability, but the other side was terrified of what comes next. Now, in the midst of it all, Tulsi Gabbard addressed the country yet again, calling for calm and transparency. Tulsi's message was clear. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. And that right there, guys, more than anything, captured the moment. a nation divided, yet finally facing the truth that it tried so hard to ignore. So now here comes the part where Washington fears the most, the courtroom phase. Legal analysts are saying that these indictments could refine executive accountability for decades to come. In fact, the first hearings are scheduled for late November. Mark your calendars, guys. The first hearings are scheduled for late November in Fort Pierce, Florida, and prosecutors are already preparing their witnesses lists. Now, insiders confirm plea discussions are quietly underway. Some lower-level officials, the go-betweens who carried communications between the Obama White House and the FBI leadership, they're reportedly cooperating in exchange for reduced sentences. Those testimonies right there could solidify the case against Comey, Hillary, and Obama himself. The constitutional implications are huge. They're enormous. Never before in U.S. history have sitting or former senior officials faced charges tied to manipulating federal intelligence for political gain. Legal scholars are calling it a once-in-a-century reckoning. Meanwhile, subpoenas are rumored to be next for the former CIA director John Brennan and former DNI James Clapper, the very architects of the intelligence briefings that shaped the Russia narrative. And this isn't even the end. This is the beginning of a legal and moral reset. This is one that will test the limits of justice, loyalty, and the American experiment itself. So here we are, guys. This is the moment history will remember. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and James Comey, they're all facing indictments for crimes that once seemed untouchable. Tulsi Gabbard, a woman once embraced by the same establishment who's now trembling before her, stood up and did what no one dared. She told the truth. Justice isn't supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to feel necessary. For years, Americans, we were told that this day would never come, that the powerful would never face accountability. But right now, under President Donald J. Trump's second term, I can tell you right now, the system is finally being forced to answer to we, the people. This is bigger than the politics, guys. This is about restoration of faith in the rule of law. The idea that our nation can cleanse itself from corruption and still rise stronger than before. So stay alert, stay vocal, and never forget, light always exposes darkness, no matter how long they try to hide it. Like, share, and subscribe because justice is just getting started.